So once the riots started up in 1950s, the people from Barrackpore started fleeing to India. It is 1949 and 1950. As they started to come, it was Haripada Vishwas, with his expertise and connections with the government, that he established a full-fledged municipality. It got the municipality status in 1965 very fast. So it is kind of a new settlement within the Kolkata metropolitan area. So my research was basically looking into that, what is the role of Haripada Vishwas, because he according to some rumor, I won't say rumor, according to some information, or I didn't get any archive info, but it was quite reliable, because most of the people used to say, older generation, that Haripada Vishwas demarcated the particular city based on caste. For the lower areas which used to remain flooded, it was for the scheduled caste, and despite he being the scheduled caste from the scheduled caste category, and the upper for the non-scheduled caste and for the general caste people. So my curiosity, that why a person of this stature would ever do such a thing which is not accepted in a liberal society. So this questionnaire is basically the questionnaire for the population which seldom understands English, and each and every question and responses are translated into Bangla. For the first set of questions, this is, say, for how long your family had been resettled. I have given 4 options: 5, less than 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 30, and above 30. Second question: why do you think that New Barrackpore becomes a special place? Because I've given 5 reasons. They have to understand, or they have to respond within these things. Excuse me. But for the third question, I ask yes and no, that do you have any idea that why Mahashaya established the settlement and demarcated it for a particular place? If it was yes, was it good or bad? Good or bad, even if the respondent answers any of the good or bad thing, he is supposed to answer why. Why do you think it was good, and why, if not good, why do you think it is bad? So the questionnaire started with closed-end question. Closed-end. The responses are closed. That if you want to answer that a particular question, you have to be restricted within these 5 options. But the question, as we move to the later part of the question, to the later part of this whole scenario, that why these things happen, why caste and class based thing, I have left the last question for them to mull over, for them to think, and for us to think, because they're free to respond. So that is basically an open-ended question. The responses are open. They can write it in, or they can respond in any way they want to. But on the other hand, we also have Likert scales. Likert scales are basically orderly scale. They move from one order, as we so the good, from the worst to very good in that hierarchy. For instance, how do you rate your dependence on Kolkata? So highly dependent. If they say that highly dependent, and the ultimate is the not at all dependent. That whether your dependence is within a range, that whether you are highly dependent to not at all dependent. These questionnaires or these questions are based on Likert scale. Likert scale is a scale which is based on an order, that the lower order is less important than the higher one. We codify these things. For instance, highly dependent, we can keep 5, dependent 4, moderately dependent 3, less dependent 2, and not at all dependent 1. So we need to codify these things before we can use them for our quantitative analysis. I'll come to this, that what are the data types these are, because they are seldom all quantitative, but we need to convert them quantitative for quantitative analysis, and quantitative analysis may be done for categorical data also. That will come to, and we'll see the examples. Now coming to that once the questionnaire is ready, we have prepared the questionnaire, we are ready to move to the field. We know that there will be a telephonic interview or on field. And once we have our questionnaire ready, it is important that we determine the size of the sample. What is a sample? In that, I think all of us have idea that what a sample is. But once we get into the territory of inferential statistics, it is very important that we understand the difference between statistic and a parameter, or for that instance, a sample and a population. If you look at the population of Bihar, it is such a huge population. If you look at the population of Bengal, it is such a huge population. For a researcher, it is never possible to get hold of each and every individual and conduct a survey. The only body that does is the Census Commission of India, the Registrar General and the Census Commission of India. Every decade, he conducts a decadal census. Because in census, you're supposed to include each and everybody, but otherwise, all the surveys, all the data that you see are basically sample data. So that since we cannot conduct our study with all the population, we select few with which or whose characteristic would reflect the characteristic of the population. So I may find the mean of a population, of a sample, and would argue statistically that particular mean of a sample reflects the mean or the average character of the population. So that mean value of the sample is what we call a statistic, while the character of the total population is the parameter. So what is our job? Our job is to make these two, statistic and the parameter, nearly equivalent. It is always remember that it is not at all possible to make your statistic equivalent to parameter, because your statistic can never create the true, complete, absolute picture of the population. You can be closer to that. You can be more or less approximate. You can only approximate. You can never equalize. So what is the sampling error? As we select the sample, what is the sampling error? Sometimes we collect sample. Of course, this is what we have seen during our elections. That once what I shall say, exit polls come up, we see that it gets inverted most of the time. It gives a different picture, but at the time of results, we get something else. I won't say only, the primary reason of that being is the sampling error. Because you have collected a sample which is not the true representative of the population. Right? So you are supposed to include your targeted group in a way that it gives a true picture, or nearly a true picture of the population. Now, sampling bias also occurs. Sampling bias occurs during the field, and as we go forward to collect quantitative data, sampling bias occurs when you favor one set of population and ask them questions while leaving the others. You are simply favoring one set. I have my experience while conducting the World Gallup poll in Karnataka, Bangalore. It was quite far away from the city, part of the Bangalore metropolitan area, but away from the main city. I used to go there with my experts and their experts to the field. So one day I got the instruction from my head office that you're not required to go to the field every day. You stay at your hotel or where the residence is being provided. So once they came back with the data 2 days after, I saw that there is an anomaly. The data is, I looked at the data and found it quite biased towards rich. So I went to the field and found that the experts who were there on the field, they collected data from those households from where they would get some form of snacks or something to eat, despite that particular household not being part of the frame. So this is the sampling bias. When you introduce, even if some of us or most of us do random sample, doing random sample is also a scientific exercise. You cannot go random does not mean that we would go to any household and ask question. Random, I'll come to that how random is being done. So for drawing the sample, you need a sampling frame or the population frame, which includes the sampled population or the total population. From there, you get the target population. From a population of say 5,000, you get a sample of say 50 or sample of 100, and that 100 is your target population that you are going to target that. And that 100 population should not be part of your sampling bias. That you should refrain from conducting any form of bias. Now, the sampling is also a scientific thing. That you may have a probability sampling, you may have a non-probability sampling. What we generally do, we go to the field and ask any household a question. That give me what is your salary, give me what is your income, how many motor cars you have, how many mobile phones you have. That is not the way we should be doing the survey. We basically, all of us do because of the time or the resource constraint. But sampling designs are fundamentally two. One is probability, one is non-probability. Probability sampling can only be done if you have a list of population from which you can find the sample. The best available is the voters list, which is available from the website. That you can have a voter list of a particular area, of a particular block, and from there you demarcate the samples that are to be taken or to be included. Because census doesn't give you the household level information, it will never give. It gives information till the smallest unit it gives information is the census enumeration block, that is CB. It never gives you information below that level. Not at all possible. They will never give. So this probabilities, for probability sampling, what we do, we get the voters list, and from the voters list we demarcate if we are doing a survey which requires us which requires a respondent to be above 18 years of age. Mostly are, and we also agree with the point that not all are included in the voters list, but most are. So we get the